I'm sure we'll get to questions here just about the roster and those type of things. But I got a question for you. How many of you have ever been through like a fall camp? High school, competition, okay, a few of you college. Huh? It does, actually. Hey, and I'm speaking to the band next week. They're going through it. Yes, it is. Well, let me give you a little bit of just what the guys are going to go through the next 10 days. And I think it's important to know that. And this is all leading up to school. So 6 a.m., they'll wake up. The GAs are there to help them with that. Training room treatment begins at 6 to 7. 6:30 to 7:15, the coaches are in going through scripts. Breakfast is 6:45 to 7:45, 7 o'clock to 7:50. The vets are in there for the first practice taping, getting ready. There's a staff meeting, 7:30 to 7:50, just to make sure that we're all prepared for practice. A team meeting at 8 to 8:15. All right. Following that, we talk tackling and targeting and rules, and then we have a special teams meeting, 8:35 to 8:45. We have an install meeting. All right, for O&D, 8:50 to 9:35. Then we go out there and do a walkthrough, call it class on the grass, before the first practice. And then we have the veterans, all right, that group will have the first practice of the day. That'll be in helmets. That's 10:30 to 12:15. The rookies and selected vets are going to lift. They'll come out kind of towards the end of the practice so we can address everybody. There's lunch. There's a little bit of time in between from lunch to when we get back together. But the rookies, and that second practice, they'll start getting taped and ready. We have a little window in there for coaches for recruiting. Then we jump right into a special teams meeting with the rookies and selected vets for that second practice. We have a practice meeting with everybody from 3:15 to 4, and then we have the second practice from 4:20 to 6:15. All right, now, the vets are going to lift during that time, so they already practice in the morning. We'll all get together at the end, and then we have dinner. All right, coaches are watching film during dinner time, 6 to 7:30. Staff meeting for special teams, 7:10 to 7:25. Team meeting, 7:35 to 7:45. Special teams, 7:50 to 8:05. Then we have position meetings and a walkthrough at the end of the evening. And then treatment and snacks, training room, curfews at 10:45, and then we do it all over again. All right, so for the next 10 days, that's the schedule that our guys are going to go through. And it's training camp for a reason. I mean, everything that we're doing over the course of this next month is all to get prepared for the season. We're putting everything in. We're talking about the rules. We're talking about situations. We're going through just about everything that will come up, at least we hope. We're hitting most of those things, and that's what we're going to be focused on. So what these guys are getting into, like today, I mean, as guys show up, they've been doing this. We're going to, we got seniors on this squad that this will be their last time to get a chance to do this here. And for us, it's a big day. So opening day to get everybody here, make sure everybody's good, and then we start practice on Friday because right now everybody's 0-0. All right, nobody's won a game, nobody's played a game, and our opportunity is right in front of us. So what we do in training camp is going to be extremely important, all right, to our success for the rest of the season. So know what these guys are doing. School starts on the 16th, and I say that because I don't think anybody, if you haven't been through it, it's hard to appreciate, all right, the day-to-day grind that these guys go through. And I know the NFL players, you get to see it on some Hard Knocks and different things like that, but for coaches and players to lock in and really come together and build that chemistry through the game of football, spend this much time together, it's a really, really important time. And there's a lot of stuff. There's, this is talking season while we're practicing and all that. There's all the speculation of what could happen and what everybody thinks until you actually go out there and play. And that's the beauty of playing, is you get to settle the score in the arena. All right, you don't talk about it, you get to go out there and actually play. So all this work that we're doing and what our guys have been doing since January, it's all going to come together. And hopefully that shows up on September 3rd and we go out there and play. And then, from that point on, we're into the season. So I'm proud of our guys for the work they put in. I'm excited about where this team is at. I've said that, and I really mean that too. I like this squad. I was telling my wife last night, because we're talking about, here's another season that we have a chance to be a part of. And, just where this team is at and what they've been through and the things that we've done to get to where we are right now. I'm excited about this squad. We got a lot of work to do, a lot of things to prove. Most spots are open for competition. Our guys know that, and they're going to go out there and compete, but they're also going to help each other out. They're going to bring value to whatever their role is. They're going to bring value to their teammates and the coaches, and then, we'll go out there and make the decision of who the starters are going to be, but everybody on this team is going to help us win. And that's a message I want to make sure they understand. Everybody on this team, you may not think so, other people may not think so. The guy waving the towel on the sideline, they don't know that he was the scout team linebacker that week, all right, playing whoever against a really good defense that we're probably going to face. They're really important to our success, and they matter. All right, and all these guys, and I say this too, all these guys going through this for 3, 4, 5 years, there's a reason why when they leave here, they're going to be successful. They're not afraid to grind, they know how to work, and they can push themselves. So through the game of football, we're developing a lot more than just, wins on the football field. We want that, we'll get that. I know this team's capable of it, but that's what camp is all about. So we're going to talk about those things tonight. We're going to recognize some guys' accomplishments through the summer. Academically, guys finished up well, so proud of those guys in those areas. Had a few guys get married, some other things happen along the way, and so we'll recognize that. I got the seniors coming over to my house tonight, and they get a chance to hear Ronnie Brown, all right, share a little knowledge with those guys, and so we're going to have a great time, and then we'll get ready to go tomorrow, and we're into that schedule I just told you. So with that, questions?
Well, last year you didn't run down like this. We didn't know exactly how everything was set up, but it appears that you're working on a little different schedule, practices at a different time than you had last year. Just talk about being here for a year and how that sort of changed your approach going into fall camp.
Yeah, this is similar to what we did last year. I've kind of had this schedule, but the 2 days that were split, just having the young guys in the afternoon, so they get to kind of see it installed. They get to see the practice that the older guys had a chance to go through, and then they get to go out there and execute it, and then they get to watch themselves later that evening. And it gives us a chance with the older guys, you're kind of moving, right? We've been doing things all summer, the OTAs, and all those guys have been a part of it, but it gives you a chance to kind of slow it down a little bit and teach a few more things, some of the details that our guys have already heard that were here in January and guys that were here last year. So it just gives us a chance for 2 days to really just make sure that what we need to emphasize, because I think the first 2 to 3 days is kind of your DNA that you're getting in. You want to make sure that you're very clear on the expectations, all right, what we need to get done, and the questions get answered. And so having the 2 practices, for the coaches, it's a little bit of a grind to get back out there and have the 2 practices. But that second one is really good for us to be able to teach. And then I think what you find out from your older guys, too, is some of those guys get out there and they've already practiced earlier in the day, but they come out and help. So they get a chance to get around, and then the younger guys are like, hey, what do I do on this? And you start getting that player-to-player coaching. And that's what I think helps.
I'm sorry. By the way, I'm Bill Cameron with you.
Yeah, Bill.
Just was going to wonder when you were talking about the 2 camps, are some of the guys that were here this spring, the newcomers from this spring, going to be in the rookie camp as well?
Yeah, they will. So the coaches kind of split it up. So you got to have enough to make a team, right? So you're going to take some selected vets too to be in that second practice. And some guys might go in the morning one day, and the next day they might go in the afternoon. All right, so just kind of mix it up. And it's not really about depth. It's not so much about who the starters are. It's just about splitting it up so we can focus on our guys with some of the real basic needs that we have to do right now getting into camp before we get all together. And once we're all together, it's on at that point. So it gives us a chance to do that.
Right, Jason Caldwell, Auburn 247. And
Yep.
Quarterbacks, do you rotate those guys through with Holden, with those young guys to kind of go for the rep purposes?
Yeah, we do. So those guys can rep, because you're repping 4 guys, right? I mean, those guys, you got to get, split practices really help the quarterback, so they get a ton of throws in there, even if they're just thrown to a spot. But those guys will bounce around. Coach Kesaw's got all that ironed out. And then also even for Holden, just, he's been through spring, but having a chance to go back through the install and do it one more time, slow it down a little bit until we get all together on the 3rd day.
Brian, where do you feel like you guys stand in the whole NIL program, and how do you avoid, and I'm sure everybody's facing this, but how do you avoid it becoming some kind of distraction?
What was the first part of it?
Where do you think you guys stand as far as the NIL program goes?
Yeah, well, that's really hard to tell because there's not really a market. And I think that's exactly what they're trying to figure out, right? You don't know what the market is in NIL. I mean, everything is what you hear, and the rumors and all the other things that I think you hear. We all hear the same things, but there's not really a set market for NIL. So that's something that I know it's being worked on right now. People are talking about that because it's very hard to gauge where you are. I know we're doing it. We've embraced it. It's part of college football now, and And I think there's some things, like you can say we're doing some things really well. You can say, well, we're not doing it well enough. But let me just tell you this. Here's the one thing with NIL. Each player, they're going to have opportunities to get money from their name, image, and likeness, right? I mean, that was the whole concept behind it. And that provides an opportunity for them. Now, they also got to keep the main thing, because what you're trying to accomplish, getting your degree, starting, trying to win championships, if you want to go on and play at the next level, that takes time. And what we have to do is remind our guys, like, hey, we all want it all, right? I want to have it all, and those type of things. You're not going to be able to do that. You got to focus your time and energy on certain things. All right, how do you handle NIL? How do you handle the things that are really, really important to you? And then, as far as like our support, we have people that have supported this program a lot longer than I've been here, and have had their names on buildings and built libraries and facilities and added additions to that stadium and all that. They've done a lot. They've done a lot for this program. So I think it's important that, we recognize that as well, and what they want to do to help Auburn moving forward in this area. That's important as well. But I'm not going to get up here and say that, they're not doing enough. I appreciate, where we are right now. I think our coaches are working hard to make this better. I think we're really working to make it how we want it at Auburn. I think the people that support us feel the same way, and I think that's what makes us unique. Is this is what we're going to do, and this is what Auburn provides, and we want to give you that experience, and still try to help you focus on the things that are most important to you when you get here. And so I think that's what helps with distractions, because when it started, I mean, that was the hottest topic, right? And all of a sudden, you could see there were guys and maybe performance dropped, and all of a sudden they're sitting in your office going, I got too much on my plate. We've all been there before. And it's all about simplifying. And when you're trying to do something great, you got to simplify and focus on how you accomplish that. And to me, that's from parents, that's from coaches, that's just, I think, things that have happened. I think it's from other players. We saw, you look around college football, there were guys that were Heisman hopefuls and all these other things that ended up transferring, leaving, that got caught up in all this stuff. And so, the expectations and the work, they didn't meet like they needed to. And I think guys have taken a step back and go, okay, I still have this goal. I need to spend time on it, where this other stuff fits in, and what I do, I got to be able to manage all that.
Bryan Stoltz, Auburn rivals, spelled differently. Jeff was talking about Donovan Kaufman and the steps he's taken as a leader this year. What have you seen out of him, and what do you expect out of him this year?
Yeah, he's extremely hard worker, very good in the film room as far as being in there and spending time. Like, he does the stuff you need to do to be successful. He pushes himself at workouts. He's not out there when we're running decks. He's not just getting through it. He's really pushing himself. He's trying to make progress each and every time he's in a workout or he's on the football field. He's got another year of experience. He's been able to go back and watch, himself against the kind of competition that we're going to play, and the things that were good, things that were bad, and he's in there studying. I mean, he's doing what anybody would do to try to be successful, and just spending the amount of time necessary to do that. And I don't think it's going to be any different in fall camp. I think he'll show up, and I think he's also got confidence because he knows he's going to prepare himself. And not everybody does that. That's one thing. I think at this level, a lot of guys, in high school, you can play. You can get out there, you can play, and you get to the ball, you catch the ball, whatever. You've got physical tools to go out there and be a really successful football player. Get to this level, everybody's good. All right, now what separates you? What you know. All right, how you prepare. The things you do going into each and every practice. Like, he's starting to take that pro approach as a player, and he needs to do that, and I think more guys are following in that lead. I think that will help us.
Coach, when did you hear about TJ Finley's issue, and what's his status as far as practice tomorrow?
Yeah, he was here. He'll be here tonight. He'll practice tomorrow. So, we're aware of what's going on.
Bryan, is Jeremiah Wright now on the defensive line, and what have you seen out of him this summer in terms of his work?
Yeah, he is. He's gonna be back on the defensive line. He and I had a conversation about that. That's where he wanted to be. And I think that's important too. I think, a guy that wants to play a certain position as well. And he's a smart guy. He's thought it out. This is not just an impulse thing. He's thought about it, what he wants to do. I think he's healthy now, his knee, it held him back. And when you're a bigger guy, I think that's what's more difficult is you're going to lift more weight, you're going to carry more weight, you're going to do all those things. So when you have an injury like an ACL, it takes time. Maybe not as, and probably longer than what it would take for a skill player. Just the pounding and the things that he's been asked to do. But I really think he's come along. I think the summer's been good for him. I think Coach Brumbaugh is excited about getting to work with him now and having a chance to really get him on the D-line and focus on that position, and that's going to help him, and that's going to help us.
We talked to Keith about Shedrick, and he said you can, even just physically, you can see the difference in him doing the things he's done. What are your expectations for him after the way he finished last year?
Yeah, you can definitely see, and for an older player too, that's hard to see that physical transformation happen, but you can see it with him. He and Owen, DK are all guys that on the decks, those guys were crushing it. So they showed tremendous grit, toughness, and conditioning. Expectations for him just every day. Really every day, just be exactly who he's capable of being. I think that's the biggest thing for Shed. I love Shed. I love his approach. I love his attitude about everything, and I think he can be a really, really good player. Just be consistent every single day, and that's not that he's not, but I think that's the key for him. And he's at that point in his career. That's what you should be. That's how a pro approaches every single day. That's how a veteran player approaches every single day when you're a good player. And he's shown that. He's been very, very good about what he's doing workout wise, how he takes care of his body. He was in the training room today, and he's just in there making sure that he's ready to go for tomorrow. So he's got the right approach. And then, lead that group of wide receivers. We got more depth. I think that area has improved. Now, be an example, help lead that group, help Coach Hilliard, all right, in the offensive side of the ball, lead the wide receiver room, and let's make that, one of the strengths of our offense.
Is that a key for the entire group? You mentioned consistency every day. I know it's all throughout the team, but for those guys,
I think I said the same thing last year with that group was consistency, right? So I'm consistent on that. Absolutely. The wide receiver room, we're going to ask those guys to do more. And that's why, we have the group that we have now. That's why we brought in certain players. Coach Hilliard brings that experience of what we want to do offensively to that room and how we want to do it, how it should look, how guys that are hard-nosed at the wide receiver position play. And so that has to happen every day. The one thing about that group, because we have 3-4 of them out there at a time, they got to be consistent. We got to catch the balls that are thrown to us, right? We got the ones we have a chance to. We got to be in the right position. We got to know the motions and shifts and all the different things that we're asking them to do. Personnel groups, communication, tempos, all that. And if those guys can handle those things, the interior guys, we can manage that. We can get the perimeter handled, and those guys can do it day after day. Just the flow of how we operate is going to make us better. That's the consistency piece I'm talking about.
Can you talk about the linebacker group getting the rust off of Owen and then developing some more guys there that can come in and play prime time?
Yeah, it's good to have Owen back, and I think Cam is a guy that has had a really good summer. He's long. He's got the length, speed. I've seen him through the summer. I think he's really improved physically. I think for his understanding of what we're doing. Coach Robinson, Coach Schmedding done a great job with him, so he understands the defense and what we want to do. Wesley Steiner has played, has experience. I think he's had a really good summer. I'm excited to see how he goes out there and competes and plays. And then Eugene Asante, a new addition there. He's got great speed. He missed a few weeks or so. His father had passed away in the spring, and so he was out for quite some time, and that impacted his development, but it was family first, so that was something that I think he's really done a good job of getting himself back. But he's had to recover some of those days. He has to really focus in training camp. He's got to make sure that every lift we do, it's intentional. And even through the season, he's just kind of playing a little bit of catch-up from that standpoint. But as far as the rest of the guys in that group, we'll see where everybody else stands when we get a chance to get out there and really watch them in pads. Because that's a position, like, you need to be in pads. You need to be able to go out there and play. And I think there's a tremendous amount of feel that goes into playing that position. You got to be really smart because everybody's messing with you and your eyes and your keys. And I do think we have that in that room. And I think Coach Robinson brings that understanding of the position in a way that those guys can apply it on the field. Like, this is maybe another way to look at it. And I've seen that in our OTAs. I'm sure we're going to see that in our practices.
Bryan, you mentioned in Atlanta that you thought the offensive line is sort of a group that's flying under the radar. How much competition do you sort of see in that group going into camp right now? Obviously, so many seniors in there. And what are sort of those?
Yeah, they're going to compete. And I think that group is worked really well this summer. I think Coach Pittman, that was an emphasis for him, working with that particular group. There's experience there, but we still got to figure out who the best five are. And you got guys like Brandon Council that's coming on. You got Stutz that's coming on. You got some other guys, KJ. I mean, they've all done things this summer to change their bodies, to physically get stronger, to understand what we're doing better. I think Coach Friend's done a really good job teaching these guys and our offensive staff to help them so they understand the schemes better, what we want to accomplish, how we want to do it. So, yeah, I mean, that group, I know when I first got here, I mean, that group was, again, right? They were always under fire. Okay, everybody's talking about the O-line, and I mean, it just is what it is. And so I think we have good players in that group. I think we showed it last year at times. I don't think we're consistent enough, and I think we got to find guys that are going to be able to do that through 4 quarters. That's the biggest thing, because you're playing against some really good guys up front. You play the best defensive lines in the country, all right, in the SEC. So that's a challenge, and that I think physically we're much better than we were a year ago. So that will help. And I think that's one thing about this game. We can talk about, mindset, is a guy tough enough and all that. If you physically can't whoop somebody, it's hard to say that, go out there and have confidence when you can't physically whoop somebody yet. So we needed to physically get ourselves better, and we did that. So we're physically better now. As we get through these 25 practices or so, we'll find out, what we look like in pads and how physical we really are, and that will tell us more about this team. And as our O-line and D-line prepare through fall camp or through this training camp, I mean, that's really going to be how this team goes, is up front. All right, with those two groups. And I think we got some good D linemen. I think we improved in those areas, so that will help our O-line improve as well.
He said that Tavares might be the most improved young player on the offensive side. I know you said last month at media days that he's a completely different player than he was last season, but what's the biggest change that you've seen from him in the last year?
Yeah, I think just experience, growing up, deciding that, hey, there's a purpose every day to try to go out there and make an impact. I mean, it's really what it is. He's a fun kid. Like, he's fun to be around. He's got great personality, great spunk, all those things like that. I think he's just decided, like, look, I want to play. And if I want to play, I got to know my stuff. I got to be in the right spot. I got to do the right things. I got to make the plays I'm supposed to make. And, he's a competitor. And I think that's what young players go through. You got to kind of understand when players come in here, and I told him this all the time, is, you get into that kind of beer commercial lifestyle where everything's all fun and, all right, I'm just going to class and no parents around, all these other things like that. And it's like, no, you got work to do. And I think that comes from your peers too. That's the other part. We're better from just our peer expectation, not just the coaches. If you just have the coaches and that's the only expectation you have as a player, that doesn't work. When you have more of that peer expectation, like, hey, you're going to be out there, like quarterbacks are grabbing them, you're going to be out there with us and we're going to throw. Other receivers are saying, you're going to get out of your dorm, you're going to come out there and be with us, and we're going to go throw. When that starts to happen, all right, that's way more impactful than anything a coach can do. And I think we have better leadership, we have more of that, and I think that's impacted a guy like him.
Anything else for Coach? Bryan, Jeff was talking about Owen's injury last season, how just kind of heartbreaking that was for him. But how much of a difference do you expect maybe the defense to have this fall as compared to the spring when they've got their quarterback out there to learn the schemes and learn what's going on? Yeah,
no question he makes an impact. He's a difference maker. He does understand what we're doing out there. I think he brings guys with him. So, yeah, it did. It hurt. Yeah, I think, injuries happen. Like, you lose good players at times, right? But I also think, like, his leadership, and I thought Wooten, he was a guy that he really stepped up. And we missed Chandler, too, like his leadership. That's one thing. I mean, that's another part. I think other guys have, like DK and some other guys we mentioned, have really taken some ownership in that area. But you got a guy like Chandler Wooten. You got a guy like Owen Pappo that are leading your team. and then one of them gets hurt, and then Chandler was taking all the reps on everything, and never complained one time. He was doing everything he could. So to have Owen back out there, and now, all right, who steps up with him? Another guy, Zion Puckett. You guys haven't had, just in the secondary. I'll just bring that up. Zion Puckett had a shoulder injury and all that, but this guy, he's going to have a great training camp. I know that. He's had a great summer. Really like him. I think he's worked very hard, kind of quietly, to kind of get where he's at right now, and I'm looking forward to him in the back end. And then, those guys up front. I mean, as far as our linebackers go, your best friends are the D linemen. So those guys up front, the additions of Imba and Jason Jones and some of those guys that we have in here, Burks being healthy, that's going to make a difference for those guys behind. That it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Yep.